Hello guys, welcome to Captain Dorge's Armory. This is Captain Dorge. We are going to be continuing on with the World of Tanks advice. This will be episode number 9. And this World of Tanks advice is a continuation of World of Tanks number 7 and number 8. World of Tanks number 7 was knowing your role, and that was just about the generals of knowing your personal vehicle and the matchmaker and the map to figure out what you should be doing as the match progresses. And number 8, we talked about iron triangles and a basic introduction to my personal classification of the way that I think about all the tanks in the game. And just a quick reiteration, I break everything down into either a gun tank, an armor tank, or a mobility tank. And as we know, most tanks in the game usually have two strong features. They'll feature, for example, very good gun and good mobility, but mediocre armor, something like that. So in a situation where a tank has two strong aspects, I call it a hybrid class. And an example of a hybrid class of tank, the IS-6 with its very high damage per minute and high alpha damage for a heavy tank, combined with its very good armor, makes this what I would call a hybrid class, a gun armor tank. Well, today we're going to look at mobility tanks. I wanted to look at gun tanks first because I think gun tanks are probably the most interesting, but the problem with covering gun tanks is that there are so many gun tanks in World of Tanks. It's not to be unexpected. Every tank carries a gun, whether it's a large, slow-firing, powerful gun like on the T-30, down to a rapid-firing, much less powerful weapon like the 85mm gun on the WZ-131. They all have guns, so gun tanks get fairly complicated. Armor tanks and mobility tanks are a little bit more simple. So I'm actually going to do mobility tanks first, and a general rule with mobility tanks is mobility tanks tend to either be medium tanks or light tanks. Those are your most likely candidates for a mobility tank. There are rare exceptions to that, though. Quite a few tank destroyers are actually mobility tanks or have a strong mobility element, and certain heavy tanks, especially the French heavies, are really primarily mobility tanks as well, but those are definitely in the minority, and the biggest classes of mobility tanks are going to be your mediums and lights. And in the replays we're going to look at in this video, we're actually going to have one of the WZ-131, we're going to have one in the AC-48, and one in the Leopard prototype. I was hoping to do live commentary, but I just got games that I thought would be really good examples when I was watching. I was actually watching Frasier on Netflix, so I can't watch Netflix and do live commentary. That would be really weird. So unfortunately, no live commentary. But I think these three games are pretty good examples of what I want to talk about. So I'm going to use them anyway. So before we go into battle, I want to hit up the iron triangle a little bit. This was the basic iron triangle that we looked at before, just to get the concept across. You have the defense, the firepower, and the mobility. And obviously, since we're talking about mobility tanks, we're going to lean towards vehicles where their strongest attribute on the iron triangle is their mobility. That's, obvious. That's why they're mobility tanks. And this is kind of an iron triangle that I would make for a tank like the Leopard prototype. It has very, very strong mobility, strong firepower, but the defenses are just absolutely poor. Basically, on this tank, if you get hit by anything, anywhere, it penetrates. Every now and then you'll get lucky and a shot will bounce off you, but it's very, very rare. So, just, again, excellent mobility, very, very strong, very good firepower, but very poor armor. Now, the other type of mobility tank that you encounter quite a bit is what I would consider more of a pure mobility tank, where we can see right here the very strong leg of the mobility side of the triangle, but the firepower and the defense are both kind of small. That would be what you would encounter more often with most light tanks. I would say that the WZ-131 would have an iron triangle sort of like this. It's pretty mobile. It's got decent firepower for a light tank, but really not all that much firepower. And the defenses on it are pretty poor. Basically, again, any shot that hits you is going to go in, no matter where it hits you. Now, a tank like the AC-48, I don't really consider this to be a mobility tank. I would probably consider this a gun tank, actually. But we're going to use a replay of this because in the situation that I was in, even though I was a gun tank, the strongest attribute I had to play with was actually mobility. So in this situation, the AC-48, which I would normally consider to be a gun tank, is going to be doubling as a mobility tank. So what are some general guiding principles you want to use with a mobility tank before we get into actual battle? The first general principle of a mobility tank is, above all else, you really want to avoid getting hit. If you can possibly avoid getting hit, you need to do that. Obviously there are exceptions every now and then. We'll see in the Leopard prototype match, at the end of the battle, I'm going to take a pretty good hit from a 4502P, but at that point, it would have taken a miracle for him to one-hit kill me. He was the last enemy alive. Me getting hit wasn't going to cost me anything, but it was going to allow me to get another shot in on him, which at the time I thought would be worth it. But generally speaking, you want to avoid taking any damage if at all possible. So you need to use your tank's agility, speed, and maneuverability to advance from cover to cover, poke out from behind obstacles from an unexpected direction. If you're in a city and you engage an enemy on one city block, before you come out and re-engage, you want to move to another city block. You want to use your speed to always come from unexpected directions. A lot of times mobility tanks are scout tanks, and if you have good view range, you want to take advantage of your view range. Both of these tanks have good view range. That's a strong attribute of these tanks, and especially if you have binoculars, you definitely want to take advantage of that. So you can use your mobility to do other things than just attack the enemy. Oftentimes, advancing to a relatively safe position early and getting some early spots on the enemy is a very, very useful thing for a couple of reasons. Obviously, the most useful thing about getting early spots is if you get early spots, a lot of the time you can get some early damage from teammates, sniping or artillery fire. But kind of an understated advantage of getting early detection on the enemy is it's very valuable to see what enemy tanks are deploying where. So when you get the opportunity to get early detection and then, not suicide scouting, but say advancing to a bush or to a ridge line, spotting the enemy for 3 seconds, retreating, and then, going somewhere else. That can be really, really valuable. Just a great example off the top of my head, encounter Sand River. That way you see, the Tier 9 mediums are going up onto the hill, the Tier 9 heavies are going down to the cap. We don't have to worry about them. We can attack, things like that. So, use your mobility and use your view range to get early detection in. And just take advantage of the enemy's weaknesses. If you find a gap in the line, you can exploit that and go on an offensive. So we've been in the garage now for quite a while, and I think it's time we got these suckers into battle. So let's take a look at some battles here. We're gonna start with the WZ-131, and then we'll do the AC-48, and we'll finish with the Leopard prototype. All right, well, we are in battle in the WZ-131. And we're on Encounter Himmelsdorf, and by now anyone who's seen my channel knows that I really enjoy Encounter Himmelsdorf. And I really like Encounter Himmelsdorf for matches, or for tanks like light tanks, actually. I'm a self-professed pretty bad light tank driver. I don't know a lot of good scouting locations. None of my light tanks have 6th sense on them, which makes scouting hard. So, I really prefer to play my light tanks as a light attack tank, and Himmelsdorf is a map that I know really well, and I think Himmelsdorf Encounter is a map that plays very easily as an attack tank, because so much, the hill is so crucial to winning this map. that as a light attack tank, you have almost the entire city to just exploit. Whereas, say on normal Himmelsdorf, you get the entire map is covered by real combatant tanks. But on Encounter Himmelsdorf, that's not really the case. So I'm not a major combatant. I did not go up the hill. Instead, I came down here into the middle, and I'm just looking for detection on enemy light tanks and enemy tanks deploying through the town. And again, I just realized my stupid over-target markers are bugged. So we're going to pause recording while I fix those, and we will be right back. Alright, so we're back after getting the over-target markers reactivated. And we're joining back in the battle right here. And so I made the run into the center of the map, looking for enemy targets, just to kind of try and get a gauge of the enemy's deployment down in the town. Because even though the hill is really where the important fighting goes on in this map, knowing where the enemy is in town is definitely valuable information. So I've deployed down here basically to scout, and we get the opportunity to eliminate the AMX 1375. We take that opportunity. I thought about driving out into the middle of the field here to attack this T-34-85, but I decided not to, and I thought I was going to be able to get shots on him through this building. I figured he would maneuver against the 3001D, but he didn't, so I ended up wasting a lot of time right here, and I actually kind of leave that guy out to die a little bit, so I felt kind of bad about that. But in hindsight, the TDs and stuff down that road ended up killing him through gaps in the wall. And in the time since those TDs killed that guy, they've now advanced too far to shoot me. So I go out and shoot the T-34-85 in the back, and am able to kill him. And now we see the enemy T-28 prototype coming, and I definitely don't want to get into head-to-head with that guy, so I'm just going to avoid him. We combo shoot the EZ-8, and he dies, so now my rear is secure to go attack the T-28 prototype. And this is just a perfect example of what I mean by, use your mobility. I could have gone at that guy frontally, but that would have been really stupid. So I'm just going to come at him from behind like a non-idiot. And I go for the detracking shot there and miss, but we're able to kite around his gun very easily. And now we're firmly entrenched behind him, and that tank can't rotate its gun all the way to the rear. So we're just going to stay right in his backside, reload, and kill him. So we've managed to do a lot of work right here down in the town. We've got 4 kills, including doing a massive number on that T-28 prototype. So we're definitely doing valuable work, but the cap side is in trouble. They've got a Jagdpanzer IV and a 3001D pushing in from the front, and an SC-100 pushing in from behind. So our team over by the cap is under heavy duress, and it's time for me to use my speed to get in there, and hopefully I can take this SC-100 from behind. So that's my mission. I know that 3001D's probably spotted me, but SC-100 doesn't have a lot of HP. Unfortunately, I derped my shot going over the tracks, but lucky for me, he derps his shot as well. I put a good hit into him. I'm around him, and we finished him off. Unfortunately, we did take a hit, so we've taken 2 big hits there. That was probably from the Jagdpanzer IV using the 88. And he hits us again, and we're down to 192 health. So we got to be careful here, but we also need to be resetting the cap. So we're gonna snipe at that Jagdpanzer IV, and we get a lucky fire on him, and he actually burns to death, getting us the top gun. But we're now down to 59 hit points. We need to be really, really careful here. Well, let's just say our team's come down from the hill and is knocking these guys out with impunity now. But I think I overstayed my welcome here a little too long. Oh, no, I don't. I thought the Super Pershing actually killed me right at the very end, just as a kind of last hurrah and a sort of a screw you. But you can see that he didn't. So the results of that battle were pretty favorable. Obviously, we won. Managed to get the Top Gun and Mastery Badge Ace Tanker. And that was my first victory of the day. So 4,000 196 experience, and almost 50,000 credits. That's not too bad. Got a pretty good litany of destruction right there. The thing that really surprised me is that I came out as high as I did on damage, actually dealing more damage than everyone but the Ferdinand on our team. Just really, I didn't expect to have done that much. And you can see here we didn't do a lot of spotting on that match, but really on that match we weren't playing as a scout, we were playing as a light attack tank. So, almost no detection or anything like that. But in that battle, we were not there. At least I didn't see my role there as a scout tank. My role there was really as a combatant. Not a major combatant, not like a heavy tank or a medium tank, but definitely as a light flanker and like a skirmisher kind of. And we did some good work. We went down to spot and we encountered the 1375 and put a lot of hurt into him, killed him. We kind of screwed our teammate a little bit with the T-34-85, but hindsight is 2020. It was probably a good thing that I did because I think the TDs would have killed me. But it ended up all right for me. Then we were able to use our speed to get behind the T-28 prototype, and at that point we saw that the cap side was falling, so we were able to use our agility to redeploy to the cap side and knock out this SU-100 and this Jagdpanzer IV and get some cap resets in there. And at the very, very end, we sniped a hit into the Super Pershing. So, a lot of damage dealt in that battle and managed to get 6 kills. And just using the mobility of the WZ-131 to redeploy over little parts of Himmelsdorf to, just come out behind the enemy as much as possible and just shoot them up as much as we could. We had to go a little frontal combat there at the end against the guys in the cap circle, but I was really concerned that I needed to get cap resets. So that was a risk that I thought was worth taking. And it turns out I only got 10 base defense points, so in hindsight, it probably wasn't actually that necessary for me to do that. But that's something that you have to determine in the battle, especially with a mobility tank. When you get into a situation like that, where you know that the enemy shooting back at you will pen anywhere they hit, you have to decide for yourself, are the benefits going to outweigh the danger? And in that case, the danger was dying, but the perceived benefit at the time was that we needed to stop the cap. And so I decided it was worth risking it. And we can see from the replay and also from the post-battle results that there were other people there resetting, and in hindsight, it probably wasn't actually worth the hits that I took. But at the time, I really thought it needed to be done, so I did it. Alright, so this is our AMX ACMLE 1948, and we're picking this up near the end of the match. And we're doing this on purpose. And the reason we're starting the match right here is because at this point, I've basically transitioned from a tank destroyer playing as a gun tank into, I'm going to have to go into a mobility tank mode very, very soon. And the situation here is, it's not great. Basically, the enemy team were really bad, and we were crushing them very, very early. But except for that one guy up there, the SC-101 with 5 kills, was in a very, very strong camping position. The only problem with his camping position is it required his entire team to die before he could become effective. So that's a high risk, high reward kind of tactic. And in this case, he's now dead. And, the match could definitely go either way. The enemy has an ISC-152 on 3 kills and a Hummel on 2 kills. My team has an ISC-152 on 3 kills, myself on 2 kills, and a Hummel on 1 kill. And you can see that I'm on 19 HP, and the friendly ISU only has 432 hit points. The enemy ISU was last spotted somewhere in front of me, off to my right, or left rather, kind of generally where my aiming circle is pointed. But he's obviously not there, or else we would have detected him. He's got about 620 hit points left. So he's a one-shot for our ISU, and a direct hit from the Hummel will probably kill him. But I have to 2-hit kill him, and I'm on 19 health and have a damaged gun. and I have no repair kit and no med kit left. So it's not looking great. And also, the indications that I've gotten at this point in the match is that their artillery is better than ours. So I'm not expecting to be able to count on my artillery for very much. So let's pick it up from here. We're just trying to spot the ISU real quick. We know he's got to be moving somewhere out in the open, but we did not expect him to come from right there. And there it is. He just eradicates our ISU, and it's down to me with only 19 health. And I know that he's reloading right now, and I actually thought about dropping down and attacking him while he was reloading, but I decided not to for a couple of reasons. First of all, I know their Hummel is onto me. There was a shot from him. Not the best shot ever, but that's a tough angle with that hill right there. Second reason was I could put one shot into the ISU while he reloaded, but he would get a second shot. I wouldn't be able to get my second shot in before he could reload and kill me. And third, I was a little afraid I'd drop off the cliff and either kill myself or detrack myself. So I decided to go into a mobility tank mode, and I come down here. And the reason why I came down here is fairly simple. I generally count on players doing the stupider of two choices, even when they seem to be pretty decent, because there are just so many awful players in World of Tanks. So I expect the ISU will continue in the direction he was traveling, which was south to north, and come this way to come straight at my last spotted position. So I come here to get an ambush shot in, and the reason why I chose here is because there's cover from the artillery, and there's a terrain break that'll mean the ISU won't be able to point his gun at me when he comes around the corner. I can get a shot in, and then I can back up around this corner to reload. That's the plan anyway. But by now, it's obvious to me that the ISU 152 driver has not chosen to do that. He's being crafty. So I decide I need to go look for him. The advantage that I have in this tank over that ISU is I have mobility and I have a more rapid firing gun. Although my gun is damaged, so he has accuracy and penetration and alpha damage. I've got rate of fire and I've got vehicle mobility. Those are my strong points. I know he's got an HP advantage, but I don't... if I can get the drop on this guy and catch him from the side or from behind, his HP advantage probably won't be worth all that much. So I come looking for him, and since he didn't appear in my ambush, I believe that he has come to the south end of the hill to try and come up behind me. So I'm coming up the south end of the hill to try and come up behind him. I'm just trying to use my overall advantage and agility to hunt him, because when he didn't walk into my ambush, sitting around just means that I'm allowing him to come at me from an advantageous position. Now, something that I think is a little funny, just as an aside, the enemy SU-101, who had a really good game, is complaining that there's only 4 minutes left and he's afraid this is going to be a draw. Well, my advice to you, sir, would be don't play in such a passive position. If you don't want the entire game to be spent on a draw, you should probably not sit literally as far back as humanly possible and sacrifice your entire team for you to be able to do damage. If you want to ensure victory, you need to take the initiative and attack. Anyway. So I did not find the ISU where I was looking, and I'm really not too keen on the idea of driving straight down the 3 line down into this area to where I think the ISU probably is right now, because if he's expecting me to attack, he's expecting an attack either from this road where I just was, or probably from this part of the city. So I don't want to attack through there. I'm not really overly excited about the situation at all, and right now I should be moving, but I'm not. This is a mistake on my part. I should be moving right now, because I want to win this game. To be honest, I want to either win this game or lose this game. I do not want this game to be a draw. Draws make me very upset, and basically a draw is robbing, a lot of the time anyway, a draw comes down to robbing the enemy of their just deserved victory. So I would honestly rather go for it and be defeated than force a draw. So I've probably wasted too much time, but I'm changing the angle of attack again, I'm still thinking the ISU is probably around here somewhere in the B3, B4 area, waiting for me to come down either the 3 line or the 5 line. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use my mobility, and I'm going to try and attack from an alternate route. Now, at this point, there's probably not enough time left for this, but we're going to try it anyway. I'm going to go to the opposite flank, and I'm going to push the 8-9 line. And my plan here was to try and break into the enemy rear, catch the artillery by surprise, kill the Hummel, start capping the base, draw the ISU back to me, ambush shot him, and then rapidly reload and kill him. That was my thinking right here, and it was going to rely largely on the fact that I'd have the mobility advantage and would be able to sneak around back there. Now again, the SU-101 is whining that we're probably going to get a draw. Again, play active, don't play so passive. Playing passive is basically playing for a draw, in my opinion. So, the IS-3 is saying that I don't have enough time left, and he's right. At this point, in order to win the game, I'm going to have to blunder on both of these guys right in a row in a manner where I can quickly kill them both, and that's pretty unlikely. And it's possible, yeah, I could reload my gun enough times to kill him, but it's not very likely. So we probably lost this game. But in this clip, the importance isn't about whether or not we win or lose. The importance is about the mindset. The mindset here was that if I got into a straight-up gun battle with this ISU, I was almost certainly going to lose. So, I'm trying to either ambush him or to attack him from an unexpected direction. Using the motto, always be flanking. Because I do not want to blunder straight into a BL-10 while I only have 19 hit points. So even though the match has now ended in failure for both of our teams, I just wanted to include that clip to show that, just to get the general idea out there of what I'm talking about, just what I'm thinking about, and also as an example of, even though this is a gun tank, that doesn't mean it's not also a mobility tank. So we ended up getting a draw in that battle. Nobody got good rewards. The thing that was funny was that I talked to the ISU driver at the end of the battle, and basically we did mirror image moves of each other. When I went north to ambush, he went south to ambush me. When I went south to try and come up behind him, he figured I was up north, so he went up north to come up behind me. After that, we both sat at our bases for a little bit to try and decide what we thought the other person would do, and then I decided he'd moved over to the other flank and attacked, and he decided I was probably attacking, and he tried to cap our base. So, just as a little bit of a coincidence, it turned out me and the enemy ISU were actually thinking almost exactly the same. We played that battle almost exactly the same at the end, and unfortunately, neither one of us was able to win, which is unfortunate, because I think we both deserved it. Anyway, that was a boring clip, I realize that, but we're going to move on to the much more entertaining Leopard prototype. Alright, we're loading into battle in the Leopard prototype. We're on a standard battle on El Haluf. And I really hate this map in a heavy tank, and in a lot of the tank destroyers I don't like it very much either. But in a medium tank, this map is usually pretty fun, because you can be aggressive and you can attack. And I like attacking, I like aggressive play, I think it wins games. I like the General Patton viewpoint from the movie, where he says that he doesn't want to get any messages about holding positions. The only thing he's interested in holding onto is the enemy. He wants to be constantly advancing. That's how I want to play World of Tanks. I like to be constantly advancing, constantly attacking. Holding your position is, well, why would you bother holding your position when you could take the enemy's? That's my viewpoint. So we're going to use the excellent mobility of the Leopard prototype to take an aggressive position early. We're going to get forward, and we are going to use our view range to detect the enemy and see what kind of opposition we're facing. And then once we know what kind of opposition we're facing over here, we're going to use our excellent mobility to find a weak point and exploit it. We are going to be attacking. So, the Leopard prototype, essentially no armor on this tank whatsoever, but it is incredibly fast, it is incredibly agile, it has a very good power to weight ratio, it accelerates like a dream, turns like a dream. This thing's like the sports car of World of Tanks. And it has a gun which is very high penetration and high alpha damage, with a long reload, and the aiming time is kind of long as well, and also it could be more accurate, but it's still pretty accurate. So we took a hit when we fired at the T-95, and I'm thinking that was probably largely from the spotting of the T-71. So we focus on killing him. And you can see that I actually deflected a shot from the T-71. And even at the crazy angle he fired, and with the long range, I was pretty surprised that that bounced off. Driving a tank like the Leopard prototype, you literally expect every single shell that hits your tank to penetrate. If I had a LOL tractor sniping at me, I would expect to take damage from every single one of his shots. So you can see right here, the MT-25 and myself, we are attacking, and we've got a lot of spotting in right there, and there were definitely some good kills from that. The Batchat, hey, that's Object 263. He used to be in my clan. Huh, that's cool. Oh, he's in Yusevich now. That's not cool at all. Anyway, Object 263 and the Batchat artillery, he just lanced that enemy T-95. That was great. So we can see on the map, XVM's telling us we got a lot of last spotteds right here. And those are some dangerous, nasty tanks. T-57 Heavy, Object 704, VK-4502P. There's also a light tank that can spot us, and there's an artillery. So that's a dangerous place to be right there. And we're not going to go over and attack that just yet. We're going to use our view range to detect, and we're going to use our mobility to stay safe. So even though we're just going to be poking this hill, just kind of poking up over this hill in a relatively predictable fashion, our tanks got such good view range that we'll quickly spot these targets, and then we can immediately back down safely. So we're going to be detecting the enemy right here while we look for a weakness to attack. That's what we're going to be doing right now. And so you can see right here, we're just continuing to just sort of expose ourselves a little bit over this ridge. The MT-25 is doing the same thing, but whereas I could at least take a hit if I were to receive one and probably not die, the MT-25 would be killed. So I decided at this point I don't want to play frontal combat games with an Object 704. I'm going to put my mobility to use, and I'm going to be always flanking. So I've come down out of my position, and I'm attempting to flank the enemy. Now, I just saw that IS-7 right there. That's not good news. So I'm going to get some cover between me and him. I put this rock right here between myself and the IS-7, and we're going to continue to look for weakness in the enemy line. Now, during that time, an artillery killed the 704, and our MT-25 nailed the scout tank. So we can operate with a lot more impunity up here, and we're going to try and help against this Batchat. The Batchat is going to kill that Tiger II. That's a foregone conclusion. But my powerful gun and accuracy, I can assist against that Batchat. So I know the 4502P is right there, but if a 4502 catches me around a rock, I'm doing something very, very wrong. He should never be able to outmaneuver my tank at all. What I'm actually a lot more worried about is if that Batchat decided to stop and fire, he could kill me very quickly. But you can see he's under heavy pressure, so he's going evasive and trying to get away. But I'm also going a little evasive and trying to get his way as well. I know I've been spotted up here, and even though I feel fairly safe to stop and engage that Batchat, I don't want to stop for too long because there could be snipers around here that I can't see. The Osif B could go man mode on me. For all I know, an artillery could land a shot from like A1 or something and kill me. So I don't want to be stopped. We've taken out the Batchat. The match is very well in our favor right now. Our Batchat already just nailed the enemy Pershing. Man, Object's having a really good game. So at this point, I decided to try and put pressure on the IS-7. I just saw him fire, so I come around and fire at him. Unfortunately, I shoot a little late, and I hit his rear at an auto bounce angle. But that's okay, because I can use my mobility to re-engage. And we put a good hit into him, but unfortunately he was waiting for us, and he put a very solid 506 damage hit back into us. Now we've got the rear of the Conqueror, and we're safe from the 4502P. We should be pretty safe from artillery as well. So we're going to use our high-powered weapon to disable the Conqueror and attempt to kill him. And you can see that we've done 812 damage to the Conqueror with 2 shots. That's pretty good. Also, we're just on the edge of draw distance with that guy, so we're just going to inch forward and try to keep him in view. So there he is, 135 health, and we easily penetrate the Conqueror to finish him off. Now it's time to move up onto the plateau and root out the last of the enemies. We know the 4502P was right here, so we're going to be a little careful about him. We know the GW Panther was last spotted behind the town, so again, we're going to be pretty careful about those 2 guys. I'm looking to my left for the 4502P. I'm not seeing him. The enemy already have spotted me. I'm still worried about the 4502P, but at this point, he hasn't been detected, which means he's on the other side of the town, which means I'm safe to shoot at the rear of the Tortoise. And with this gun, you should pretty much always penetrate the rear of a Tortoise. So we put a big hit into him, and now we're going to find that last tank. We're going to put our agility to use, and we're going to see if we can catch this 4502P and get some damage into him before he gets swarmed by everybody else and murdered by the very good artillery players on our team. So we've got the MT-25 with us, which is good. 2 sets of eyes is better than 1, and it means that this guy's going to have multiple targets to choose from. You can see we're both thinking the same thing. We're going to drive around here and scout. But what happens right here is the MT-25 proxy spots that guy, and I see the Yosef B turning his turret to track the MT, so I decide to come in from the front instead of from the rear, because I want to come in from the direction where this guy's gun is not facing. So I put a big hit into the side of his turret, but he's got his gun on me. At this point, I've resigned myself to the fact that I'll take 1 hit, but with 666 HP, I can survive 1 hit. I put a second hit into the Yosef B, purposefully detracking him to allow myself to kite his gun. He was never going to catch me with his gun at that point. And Object 263 in the Batshot Arty finishes off the last enemy of the game for the victory. So let's take a look at post-game stats. So, post-battle results right here. You can see a pretty good result in that match. That was my first victory of the day, and there's a special event on the North American server right now. So 3 times experience for the first victory. Managed to pull down almost 5,000 experience and almost 65,000 credits. Litany of Destruction here is pretty favorable. I definitely like that. I love calling it the Litany of Destruction, by the way. If we take a quick look at the team score, our mouse had a monster game, 4K damage. I had a pretty good game myself with 3,692. Object 263 in the Batshot Arty, he did really well, and so did our other Arty. That guy used to be in my clan, so that's pretty cool. And he's a really good player too. But just a really fun battle, and a good example of what you can do on El Haloof with a good agile tank. And El Haloof is actually a really good mobility tank map because you can do basically exactly what I just did. So you can see there we fired 13 shots, 11 of them hit, 10 penetrations. We did a lot of damage. We also did a lot of spotting damage, almost 3,000, which is pretty good for me. Made a pretty decent profit, but that's not really what we're here for. What we're here for is the battle results. And let's just kind of take a look at the Litany of Destruction right here. If we take a look at the IS-7, we put 1 penning hit into him, and that was just pretty much straightforward. But we were able to use our mobility to punish this 4502P, and that was pretty legit. We were able to use our agility to, get into the rocks on the enemy side of the base to sort of counter-snipe this Batshot, and we were able to use our mobility to stay safe from the 4502P while we did that. We were able to use our speed to get behind the Tortoise while he was, getting swarmed. So he had too many targets from the front to worry about what was behind him. And, so we were able to get behind him, and there was nothing he could do about it. Same thing, because of our mobility, we were able to be on the enemy side of the map, shooting back into the rear of this Conqueror, and there was really nothing he could do about it at all. Because of our aggressive early position, we got quite a bit of spotting damage on this Object 704 from when one of our artillery put a big hit into him. We also got a little bit of assistance in spotting on the T-71 and a good hit into him because we took our early aggressive position, which you're only able to do when you have a fast tank on El Haluf. We were able to get up on top of the enemy base plateau before just about anybody else, so we got the spot on the Batchat and the assistance damage for that. And because of our spawning of the IS-7, we got quite a bit of assist damage on him as well. I'm a little surprised to see that I didn't get any from the T-95, but the T-95 must have been spotted by our light tanks, so good job to them. We definitely had a lot of light tanks in that battle, and you can see this guy, this T-21, he didn't really do a whole lot. This 2801 didn't do too much either, but he did get almost 2k spotting damage, and that would have been artillery hits on the enemy T-95 and other tanks like that right at the very beginning. And our MT-25, he did not get too much spotting, but I'm guessing he probably got the rest of the 704, and I got one half of the 704 and he got the other half. So our light tanks maybe didn't have the hugest role in that battle, but the light tanks were definitely they definitely made some good contributions with spotting on that flank. Really helped our artillery just nail the enemy. So good work to those guys. That was a really fun battle, and I definitely enjoyed it. The Leopard prototype, when you get into a match like that, it's high firepower and it's amazing agility, make it really, really dangerous. So on a good map, this thing is just a nightmare, and it can be a pretty fun tank to play. Well, I hope that was valuable to you guys out there. I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely had fun playing those games. It's probably going to be a little while before I get the gun tanks and armor tanks video made because these actually take a lot of time. I want to try and do more live commentary because I think Grimjugger's right. If I do live commentary, it means I can't BS you guys at all with anything. Although I don't BS you guys. I mean, I don't BS when I do this anyway. That would be counterproductive. But it kind of forces you to definitely get the good with the bad, which is, he's definitely right about that. There's a lot more honesty there. Anyway, guys, mobility tanks. This was my little quick look at just 3 different situations with a mobility tank, and just to kind of sum up, really. I know the AC-48 clip was the boring clip. It was the one where really nothing happened, but you watched the tank destroyer drive around the map. But in a lot of ways, that clip actually showed the most about what it's the most emphasis really on just using your tank's agility advantage when you need to, and just kind of what I meant by that. So I hope you found this to be of some value at all. If not, well, that's unfortunate. That's too bad for me, I guess, and too bad for you too. But anyway, guys, until next time, this is Captain Dorja, and just remember, you can never have enough big guns.